In the year 2023, I have tripled my income from the year before, where I was making 70 grand a year, and to making 228,000 US dollars a year. This video, I'm sharing the 7 life and sales lessons I've learned during that process. My name is Brian Choi. I made 228,000 US dollars in my first full year in sales and became the number 2 rep at 7th level without being that good at sales. On this channel, I share what I've done to actually make that happen. So if you're a high ticket closer, this channel is for you. Lesson number 1 is decreasing the time between ideation and action. What does that mean? Basically, long story short, is just fucking taking action faster. So when I was first getting into sales, I was at a point where I tried different businesses and, I started making a little bit of money online, but not that much. And I was at a place where I was feeling a bit not enjoying life, a bit miserable. And at that point, I had a choice to make. I could just keep trying to make this happen, this business happen, or do something else. And I wanted to do something else. And looking back, I could have probably tried harder in that business, but it just kind of turned out that way. And I was thinking, what should I do? And there's different paths I could have taken. I could have just kept doing the business. I could have done something else. And I was talking to my mentor at that time. He's not like a business coach or like whatever. He's not even like a life coach, so to say. But he was like, well, go work for somebody and learn skills. And then later on, you can come back to business and then you can make that profitable because you actually learned a high income skill. Now you actually learned how a business functions properly. And so I was like, okay. And I had a split few seconds of thinking, yeah, but like, what should I do? And he sent me a video of Alex Hormozi. And in that video, Hormozi was talking about probably sales is one of the best ways where you could actually learn the ins and outs of how a business functions. And it's a high income skill set that doesn't matter what business you do, doesn't matter what you decide to do in life, is probably going to come in handy. So I saw that video and I was like, I should probably get into sales. And I didn't know what I was going to do because at that point I was like, okay, yeah, but what if, I take too many sales calls and I get too busy. I get like quote unquote burned out. What if I don't like sales? What if sales isn't for me because I'm an introvert? I had all those thoughts coming all at once. But after like a few seconds, I was like, yeah, but let me just do something. So let me just start taking steps forward because I can't see the fucking future. I don't have a crystal ball, unfortunately. I have this nice glass ball here, but it's not a crystal ball saying what my future is going to be like. If that was the case, I wouldn't be making YouTube videos right now. Let's put it that way. So at that point, I was like, you know what? Okay, sales, let's just see how it goes. So what I do is I actually knew a guy. I had one of my close friends, June, shout out to June, my podcast co-host. He was in high ticket sales. So he was a quote unquote high ticket closer, even though he hates that name. And so I've known that guy for a couple of years now, and he's been in the space. So I was like, I text that guy. He's like, hey man, I want to get into high ticket sales. What do I do? How can you hook me up with an interview? And he hooked me up with an interview right away. Shout out to June. I'm still grateful for that. And I got an interview with a sales company, and then on the interview, because I was a referral, it was a pretty easy process. They gave me a job right away and I started getting to work. And eventually it got to a point where I went, in the beginning, I wasn't that good at it. I was making about like 2K a month. Then I got to 10K a month. Then I got to 15K a month. Then I got to 20. And then my highest month was at 36K a month. And last year I made $28,000. Okay. By the time I was leaving the company, I was averaging between 20 to 25,000 US dollars a month in commissions. So looking back, and that gave me a lot of opportunities because that gave me basically like the apartment. I fucking love this apartment. I love this. And I pay about 5.7K US dollars a month for this apartment. And I pay the whole year's rent up front. And I love this apartment. Not just the apartment itself, because it's not like a huge apartment. It's like a 1-bed. Maybe I'll do an apartment tour. But also it comes with the pool. It has the world's tallest building in the background, Burj Khalifa. And I go there after the gym. The gym's actually nice. And then I get sun. And then the life that I have right now, which is, it's not like an extravagant lifestyle. It's not like I'm living on like a super yacht or whatever, maybe with like 5 Ferraris. It's not that, because when I go to my lobby, there's literally 5 Ferraris parked and 2 Rolls Royce. Compared to those people, I'm a fucking brokey. I'm probably the most broke person living in this building right now. But I love that. Anyway, the point I'm trying to make is that it gave me different opportunities. Like I was able to travel. Now I don't really look at the price most of the times when I'm going out to eat, whether I'm picking up the bill for myself or with like my other friends. So it's not an issue. So, but had I not really gone that route, then I wouldn't have known that this was going to be the path for me. Right. And eventually it turns out that I transitioned out of sales. Now I just train reps now. I do this, but it was directionally correct. What Hormozi talks about is that, rarely speaking, the first thing you do is probably going to be the last thing you do. So what you do is, well, in that case, we can't just be at the starting line thinking like, what else we're going to do? Is that we should start taking steps forward. We just pick a direction and go. And then eventually we course correct, because you don't know. Let's say you're going on a hike, right? You go on a hike. In Korea, we have these tall mountains. People go hiking all the time. And when you're going hiking, you don't know that there's going to be an obstacle right then and there until you actually get to that point. So when you actually, before we go on the hike, on the bottom of the mountain, you don't know that there's going to be like a trail over here. You don't know that you're going to be have to go over the stairs over here, or there's like a mist, like a fog. You don't know until you actually get to the point, because obstacles happen. Good moments, quote unquote, bad moments, they'll happen. But the whole point is that you do have to still keep going forward, and then you kind of find out. So that was the first incident that I found. I'm glad that I did it. Second incident is when I was moving to Dubai. So when I was a sales sniper, Matt Ryder was on a training call. He's not a huge mindset guy, so this part kind of caught me off guard, because we weren't really going over objection handling on this training call, but we were going over what kind of ideal life that we want. And Matt says, "Oh, you guys want to make 10K, 20K a month, 30K a month, but why? Besides just wanting to make more money, because do you really need 10K a month, 20K a month? You may need more, you may need less." And I'm like, what does that mean? So have you ever actually chunked down what your ideal life exactly looks like? What are you spending? When are you waking up? What are you doing when you wake up? How much do you work? After that, what do you do? During lunch, do you go out for lunch? Do you eat at home with your significant other? Are you going out partying? Are you going to be on a super yacht? What car are you driving? What house do you live in? How much does that cost? Do you have kids? Do you want to send them in private school or public school? Do you want to travel? How often? Fly coach, fly business, what cities? You know what I mean? So look for every intricate detail. And he said, oh, at times you may not need 20 grand a month for the lifestyle that you want. You may need less, or you may need way more than that. And so I actually did the ideal lifestyle. What do I want to be? I heard Dubai is a cool place to be. Dubai is a pretty cool city. We've all seen those Instagram videos where you see Iman Ghazi, you see Tates just being in Dubai and being in a Rolls Royce Phantom. They're on super yachts and living their life with like dope restaurants with cool buildings in the background. We all see them. And so I was like, I think it'd be cool to go to Dubai. And I've been saying that, I've been thinking that for quite a while. I'm like, I think it'd be cool, but I never did, because of all the excuses in the world that you may have right now with your goals. I was like, yeah, but I think I need to make way more money to be in Dubai. Yeah, but I think it's too hot right now. How am I going to get a visa? All these excuses that are realized or just excuses, to be frank. So I was like, oh, let me just go there and see if I like it or not, because I may not like it. And that's fine. But what's the only way to find out if it's going to work for you or if you're going to like it or not? You got to actually do the thing. So it's the same conversation that you have with your prospects. You know what I mean? Like same conversation we have with our prospects, the same reframes that I was like telling to myself with my goals at that point. I was like, yeah, so let me just go and find out. So what I did that day is I went on the website and I searched some of the most expensive hotels in Dubai. I actually went to Instagram. I went to Instagram and searched Dubai hotel, Dubai luxury hotel, something like that. And different results popped up. And I just saw this one hot girl on Instagram and she was tagged this one hotel. I was like, whoa, shit, that hotel looks bang, bomb. So let me go that. So I look up the hotel website, and the cheapest room for that hotel, guess how much it costs? It costs $1,000 a night. That's the cheapest hotel. So I'm thinking at this point, okay, $1,000 for the hotel for one night. And it's going to cost like $1,000 for the plane ticket, plus the restaurant. God knows how much that's going to cost and the different experiences. Okay, well, fuck it. Let's go. I mean, YOLO, right? Like, what else am I going to spend the money on? So I just go as experience. And so I do that. I book the plane ticket. I book the hotel, and I go there. And the moment I land in Dubai, I was like, man, the air is just different. You know, there's a cliche. It's like the air is just different. Like people dressed up different. Like people look different. I've never been in the Middle East before. I was like, or at least out of the airport, I was like, man, this is interesting. And I get in the Uber and I get to the hotel. And when I'm getting out of the hotel, it was like 6 a.m, pretty early. So like it was around April of 2023. And the chill, like almost, it's not summer in Dubai, but like almost like summer weather, right? Chill summer morning weather, air just hitting my face. I get out of the Uber. I'm not that jet lagged at that point, but even before I try to open the door of the Uber, the hotel people already, like 5 of them was like coming, like swarming the car, and then they're opening the door for me. I was like, okay. And I was trying to get the suitcase from the trunk. They were open up the suitcase. They're like carrying my suitcase. I was like, okay. And I get to the receptionist, the lobby, and then the receptionist is like, hey, do you want a hot towel, Mr. Choi? And then I'm like, oh yeah, that'd be good. Giving me like candies and all the kind of stuff. I'm like, oh, okay. And I was like, where's my suitcase? He's like, oh, they already brought the suitcase to your room. I was like, all right. And I got to my room, and it's like this luxury Arabian just decoration, something you see in Aladdin, right? Where's Jasmine at? And then like there's like a mirror on the ceiling. The shower is like, oh my god. And then I look out the window, the balcony. There's like birds chirping. There's like forests and there's lakes with like emerald green. I was like, this is fucking awesome. And then I also I take an Uber to downtown to the restaurant, get some lunch. And then there's like nobody there, but I'm like, man, this is pretty fucking dope. And I'm just walking down the beach. Later turns out it's an artificial private beach. It's just man-made, which is crazy. And the washed ocean water is just emerald green, almost like the Maldives. I've never been to Maldives, but from what I've seen the photos, I was like, damn. And I get on the jet ski, and I'm just going around the jet ski with Burj Al Arab, which is the only 7-star hotel in the world, in the background. And after that, I was like, man, that was fucking dope. And I'm walking down the beach and having a $30 one scoop ice cream cone with gold paper on top of it. I'm like, this is Dubai. And to be fair, that's a more tourist experience, kind of. But I just love that so much. And then I went to a restaurant out to dinner by myself. And, you know, I'm sitting outside. There's like kind of intimidated because there's like these people dressed up so nice. Like the dudes look so successful, like in nice suits, expensive looking watches. I don't even know what those are called. With women that are just like dressed up like so elegant and like luxurious with their red dresses. I'm like, I don't feel like I belong here. And then there's Burj Khalifa lit up in the background with Arabian music. I'm like, man, this is fucking insane. And so eventually, and then I went to Canada for like a month. I was like, this is just not it. This ain't it, bro. So after that, I moved back to Dubai real quick. And I went to Dubai. And after that, I got a Dubai residence, and I started living here. And Dubai is definitely not a perfect place. Long story short, what I'm trying to say is that I'm so glad that I did it, because I may have fucking hated Dubai, but again, decreasing the time between ideation and action. Ideation, I think Dubai is cool. Or let's fucking book the plane ticket and let's fucking go. I think I should get into sales, but I'm not sure if I should. Or let's fucking get into sales and fucking find out. And that's what I did. And whenever I buy like coaching programs too, after I got into sales, I got sales training a couple of weeks after, and I got on the call. And part of me is like, oh, should I get sales training right now? Why not just wait? Or, you know, do I need sales training right now? I'm saying, you know what? Ideation, I think this will benefit me. Action, let me do the fucking thing. And I went all in. And from that coaching program, I went from about 2K a month to 15K a month within 6 months. Right now, not everyone in that program got results. I definitely tried harder than most people, not just working more hours, but actually trying, meaning that let me study this shit and let me actually break it down. And let me be proactive, you know, because, you know, there are people in the program who didn't get as much results as I did, and not because the program's fault. It's just that they didn't try hard enough, right? The same thing. Ideation. I think this will benefit me. Action. I actually took action. So time and time again, I just keep going back to this because oftentimes we just overanalyze at the starting line. Man, what if I take this step? And we're trying to map out the next 100 steps, but the world doesn't work like that. At least from my experience, it's just you take the first step, and then you may fall, you may get some bruises, you may get some scars. As long as it's not an irreversible decision that's gonna just destroy your entire life, just fucking go for it. That's what I feel like, and I've never regretted just going for it. So less thinking, more action. The number 2 life and sales lesson from 2023 is never say I can't. Ask how can I. So a lot of people are problem oriented. What does that mean? Problem oriented is because I can't because of XYZ reason. Oh, this sucks because of this reason. That sucks because of that reason. I can't. The reason why I'm not succeeding is this and this and this reason. And they're trying so hard to make the argument of why they're not succeeding. And the reason why is because when they justify, now they feel better, especially from an external source. Oh, I'm not getting the results in sales because I'm new. I'm not getting the results in sales because of my offer. I'm not getting the results in sales because of whatever reason. And even though it is true, how is it benefiting you? So you saying, "Oh, I'm not good at sales because I'm just introvert. I don't have the gift of the gab." Yeah, but how's it benefiting you? I'm not getting the results from my sales that I want because my sales manager is limiting me. Yeah, even if it's true, how's it benefiting you? Because when you say, "I'm not getting results because of XYZ, it's because of XYZ other than yourself," then now you're giving your power away to a third party that's not you. And why would you ever want to externalize responsibility other than yourself? Why do you want to give that control away, your life away, to a sales manager, to your parents, to your wife, to your kids, whatever, to your parents? Why? It may feel better, but how's your life going to change? It's the same, right? So there's an incident where Matt was talking about, he had some few people over in the sales sniper office for like a workshop. And he was talking to this one lady that came in, and she's like, "Yeah, so I'm new to sales. I'm just not getting the numbers that I want." Okay, Matt's like, "Okay, so what if you did this? What if you just did some cold calls?" And the lady, "No, I can't because I'm not good at cold calls." And so Matt's like, "Okay, so what if you hit the old lead list?" It's like, "Yeah, I just don't want to bother them." Matt's like, "Okay, so what if you hit the no-show list?" And the lady's like, "Yeah, but I don't want to do that." And then Matt did like 5 or 7 of those things, and the lady's like, "Yeah, but I can't because of this and this reason." And Matt just eventually stopped, and he's like, "Do you hear yourself right now?" And she's like, "What?" Because like they literally just met that day. And Matt's like, "I gave you 10 things you could do, and every single time you're saying, I can't, I can't, I can't because of this and this and this reason." Oh, what's the whole point? Like, how are you supposed to fix this problem? Apparently, you have a Dior handbag. You could buy a Dior handbag, but not try hard enough to just call leads. And the lady shut up real quick because she had nothing else to say. Because it's not like you can't, you just don't want to. It's not that you can't, you're just not willing to. You're just not willing to take the actions required in order to get to your goal. So don't say you can't, you just don't want to, you're just not. But how is that serving you? You're again fixating on the problem. Yes, identify the problem, yeah, but quickly move on. What are the possible solutions? So that's being solution oriented. I have a friend that, God love him, but oftentimes what happens is he had a problem and he always pretty much the same thing. He'll externalize the problems, right? So let's say, for example, he's going up and talking to a girl, and then it's a white girl. He's Asian. And then the white girl, the girl doesn't give him that much of a reaction. She doesn't really talk to him, and she says she has a boyfriend. He'll come back and say like, "Oh man, it's my accent. Ah man, it's because I'm Asian." It's like, man, like why am I Asian, dude? Like why am I like, why do these girls not like Asian guys? I'm just like, that's an interesting perspective, because whenever I go up to a girl, white girl, black girl, Hispanic girl, doesn't matter. And let's say, they don't really want to talk to me, which happens is no one needs to talk to nobody. Let's say I don't get the best reaction or whatever. I'm not thinking, "Oh, it's because I'm Asian. Oh, it's because I'm short." I'm thinking, what did I say that made the girl not be that receptive? What could I have said? What should I say next time? So I'm thinking that those are some things I can control, right? Because how the fuck am I supposed to control my race, my ethnicity? I was fucking born this way. How am I supposed to change it? Same thing with my head. How am I supposed to fucking change it? Accent, yeah, I guess you could work on it, but in that moment, how's it fucking helping you? You can't change your accent in 1 second, So it's called a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? When you say, "Oh, this is the problem," and then even though that wasn't the problem, now that becomes the problem because you're saying it's the problem. Because whenever I was in America, that friend and another friend would always say the same thing, which is like, "Oh, white girls just don't like Asian guys." But when I was in America, I've dated white girls, I dated Hispanic girls, I've dated Arabic girls, I've dated different girls, and I'm Asian, and I never thought it's because, like, I'm Asian, because it's your own insecurity. It's just your own self-justification to make yourself feel better. Because now it's like, "Oh, it's not my fault. It's my accent. Oh, it's not my fault. It's because I'm Asian. Nothing I can do about it. Whoops." Yeah. Or you can decide to feel better about yourself, or you can decide to fix the fucking problem, or at least do things to fix the problem. Because a lot of times, it's kind of like a side note, but a lot of times I forget that I'm 5'6". I just don't. It's not like I'm constantly trying to forget that I'm 5'6", like fake conviction. I just generally don't. Like in like a dating context, for example, I'm just like, okay, what could I have said better? Same thing in a sales context. Like I'm Asian, English is my second language. I'm an introvert, meaning that I gain more energy from being by myself than talking to other people. And my time zone is shit. I talk to US leads. Everyone else on my sales team is basically in US time zone. I'm always never on US time zone. I'm always in Europe, Asia, Dubai. But I'm not saying like, oh, it's because of my time zone. I'm not getting the numbers. I'm like, fuck that. Like, let me just make it work. You know? And when you do that, now it gives you power, now it gives you certainty, because now that means you can do something about it. How can I? Even though it may not be your fault. So solution oriented. Third life lesson and sales lesson that I learned in 2023 is everything has a consequence. You just have to choose which consequence you're okay with. So Sam Owen said this, and I don't know if he got it from someone else, but he said, you either sacrifice for your goals or your goals become the sacrifice. And I really fuck with that because it's true. Everything has a consequence. You got to sacrifice something. So as an example, when I was first getting into sales, I just decided I'm going to be great at this. I'm going to get better at this. I may not be the best, but I'm going to try the best I can be in my little world and the best that I could be within myself. And not just from the money aspect, but just challenging myself, as cliche as it sounds. But that's really what it was. And so during that time, I said, I'm just going to cut out different distractions and sacrifices because there's only finite amount of time, attention, and focus. So as an example, I decided that I'm going to cut out my social and my dating life while I was trying to get better at sales, when I was on the quote unquote come up, I guess. I'm still on the come up, but on my come up. And the reason for that is because, especially with dating, if I was going out to like a club or a bar, that has first order consequences that I'm spending the time and the efforts on dating. I'm at the club. Okay. Now the time I could have spent on a sales training or sleeping. Second order consequence is that the next morning, now my sleep schedule is fucked. I don't drink when I go out. I still don't. Most I'll have is maybe like a half a glass of wine at a date or whatever. But if I'm going out, even if I don't drink, my sleep schedule is going to be fucked. Right? Because I'm going to be out till like 2, 3 in the morning. And then my sleep schedule is going to all over the place. Right? Now I feel less energized. And now I'm going to eat your food and I feel more sluggish. And then the next day, I'm not really focused practicing sales or taking sales calls. You know what I mean? So like it just keeps going on, and I feel worse and I feel bad about myself on the sales calls, and like the next sales calls I do even worse. So it's not just about the first order consequence, but the second and the third order consequence, what the consequence of the consequence. And I realized that. And because of that, I wasn't even going on Tinder. Because it wasn't just about the time, it was also about the attention, because we have a finite amount of attention and focus. So the same amount of time and focus I could have spent on dating, I just spend it on sales training and getting better at that and just doubling down on that. Same thing with seeing friends. I could have seen my friends during the day, even like once a week, but I didn't. Not because, I'm so much better than you guys, but it's just a matter of sometimes I just forgot about it because I was just so locked in and getting better at sales. And I was like, sales, sleep, gym, sales, sleep, gym, sales, sleep, gym. And because of that, I just kind of forgot about seeing my friends, even though they live 20 minutes away from me. It's just kind of what happened. And, but because of that, because of my day sacrifice, what happened was I got better sales more quickly than most people. And my commission sheets showed that as a byproduct. So first month I was doing about 2K a month in commissions in my sales. And then like a month or two after I got to 8.1K. And then about 6 months into my high ticket sales, I got to 15K a month in commissions. And the following year in 2023, I made $228,000 in commissions, right? And so during that, a lot of times it's not like I had no dating life or social life the whole time. I still saw friends I went on dates and things like that. And but for the most part, I just sacrificed different things. It's not like, there's different things to sacrifice, right? I think, sacrificing health probably not the best idea. And also it's being okay with what you're willing to sacrifice for in your life. Because I've seen different Alex Hormozi videos, and then he'll say, yeah, you got like 12 hours a day, 6 days a week. Let's normalize that. In the comment section, it's very interesting because people are getting triggered by that for some reason. People are like, oh, you don't understand because you don't have kids. Oh, then eventually you get kids, da 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 da. And they're like, oh, you don't get it. Oh, dude, that's what Alex wants to do. That's what he wants to do. And that's what he's okay sacrificing. And that's what you're not okay sacrificing. And that's why you have the life that you have. And nothing wrong with it. It's not a bad thing or a good thing. It's just the thing. So you have to have a brutal, honest conversation with yourself. What you're okay with sacrifice sacrificing right now in this season of your life? Because we all have different seasons. That's what I realized. I thought I could just go monk mode for like 12 months, like be like Kobe Bryant. And at that time, I was trying to beat this one dude on 7th level, and he was the number 1 guy. I was number 2, and I was trying to beat that guy, and I was trying to be like him. He was literally working for 14 plus hours a day. I know a lot of people say they work a lot of hours. No, I saw his calendar. He had back to back to back to back to back to back sales calls for 14 slots in a row. Okay. So I don't even know what he was doing before or after, if he was doing follow-ups on top of that. And I thought I wanted to be like him or like Kobe Bryant. And then I realized like, oh, I don't. I want to have a life. Yeah, I may go a month or 2, maybe 3 months of just doing that, just putting my head down and going balls to the walls. I've done that. But for like a whole year straight, I realized at this season of my life, no. I'm not saying I've arrived. I'm saying I don't want to go on dates. I want to go travel from time to time. Not all the time, from time to time. And I do want to go out to dinner after work. That's just what I want to do at this point. And so it's being okay with what you're like, what life do you want? Like going back to like the first thing, right? Or what we talked about in the first point, which is what's your ideal life? And just realize either way, there's a consequence. Me making this video right now, there's a consequence. It's that it's past midnight right now. So my sleep probably not gonna be the best tomorrow, but I do want to get this done. So that's what I'm okay with. So in your sales, in the season that you're in now, what are you okay with and what are you not okay with? Are you in the season of putting your head down and just getting after it to get better sales and get the life that you want? And if that's the case, then you know what to sacrifice. You got to remove things before you add things, from my experience. Because what that does now gives you bandwidth, a different time, attention, and focus you can put into like just digging one well deep instead of having 10 different wells and you're digging only like half a foot deep each. You know what I mean? Oh, another thing too is, so since I moved to Dubai, it's been interesting. The dating scene in Dubai is kind of interesting that I also share as well, but there's a point to it, so bear with me. So as I got to Dubai, I started dating more attractive girls, and it's not like I'm dating like supermodels all day, every day, but the quality of the girls I was seeing has gone up from before. And there's one girl in particular that she has like, 350K Instagram followers, like tall, slim, white girl, like the body that I want, all that kind of stuff. And then, when I first saw her on Instagram, I didn't think that I could, like, before I'm like, yeah, I do want girls like her, but I don't know if I could get her. And then, we started dating. And during that process, it all seemed all peachy and Gucci in the beginning because I'm like, oh, it's a hot girl. It's like the hottest girl I've ever dated. And then what you realize is that, or at least in my experience, those girls come with its own problems, which is those girls are getting hit up in the DMs all the fucking time with different offers to them. Hey, like Maldives, I'll fly you out. I'll pay you $10,000. I'll fly you out. All paid vacation, photographer, all that kind of stuff. Let's go to Ibiza. Let's go to this. Let's go to that. It comes with its own problems, quote unquote. So it's about what are you okay with, right? Because if I look at like less attractive girl, for example, they're not getting as many of those offers, for example, right? But also at the same time, they're not that attractive, And so, at least in my experience. So from that, I just, what am I okay with? Same thing with girls in Dubai for the most part, because girls in Dubai is very interesting. Just like most major, like pretentious cunty cities, they have certain expectation because there's so many guys out there where they're literally, I'll pay you 20 grand, come to my penthouse. You don't even need to do anything. I'll get you all the heels, all the dresses and all that kind of stuff. I'll pay for the dinner. Don't do anything. Just spend 2 hours with me. Because they're getting those offers all the time that they expect it at this point. It's like some girls, they won't even go out with a guy until they get paid first, even though they're not quote unquote prostitutes, whatever. And so at first I was a bit butthurt. I was like, why are girls like this? Then I was like, yeah, fair enough, because they're just conditioned that way. And it just comes with its own problems, right? But because if I go to a city with like less attractive girls or girls that are less of my type, then they may not deal with that. But now I got to deal with girls that are not my type, right? So either way, like problems never go away. It's just it's a side lesson. Problems never go away. It's just the quality of your problems increase, or you just got to pick what problem you're okay dealing with. And as my mentor Jeremy would say, success is simply a choice. So choose wisely. Lesson number 4 is if it won't matter in 5 years, it's not worth worrying about it for 5 minutes. I got this from Alex Hormozy when he was talking about a video. And if you zoom far enough, the Earth is that you can't see the fucking Earth. If you zoom far enough, same thing. And because I used to get very frustrated whenever I get in a sales call, and then I don't really close that person, and the person had an objection. Like salespeople get objections all the time, which is kind of ironic. But I thought I could overcome that objection. I thought I could close them, and then I couldn't close them to give an objection. And then I get off that call, and I'll get all frustrated because I'm like, man, I feel like I could have done. I feel like I could have closed that person. I feel like I could have, really make it happen, but I didn't. And I'd get quite frustrated because I'm like, man, I should have built more urgency. I should have handled the objection that way. I should have said this. But looking back, does that really matter? I'm not trying to be all philosophical and apathetic, but what I mean by that is, like, at least for me, if it gets to a point where it's not productive, because I was getting so beating myself up too much to the point where it's getting detrimental, because I just have higher standards for myself. I'm just like overthinking it. So I'm like, man, like Matt could have closed that person. Jeremy could have closed that person. And I'm just beating myself over to a point where it's not that productive. If it's channeled in the right way, right? If emotions are channeled in the right way, then I think it's very productive. For example, if you're frustrated about something, then channel that energy into just working harder. Just like study your script better and call more leads, things like that. But I was getting more tense and stressed out to the point where it was not productive. And I realized, and I had a talk with Matt we had to talk about this like multiple times, but I was like, man, I just feel frustrated. What? And Matt's like, Brian, how much money are you making this month? I was like, 22K. And then he's like, then who cares? You're a guy in your 20s, single guy in your 20s, making 22K. And as long as you throw your kitchen sink at that call, at that person, and you try your best at that moment, that person decides to not buy. That person decides to stay shitty at sales or whatever the thing you're selling. Who gives a fuck? And I was like, interesting. And then it's not to say that sale is over, because you can always follow up and you should be following up. But after that, you just let it go. Because after that, it's just, who cares? Same thing is like whenever you get something in an embarrassing moment. It's like whenever you get an interaction with somebody and then you're like, oh man, that was so embarrassing. Or like, let's say you're trying to like go down the street and you trip and fall and people watch. At the end of the day, like people forget. We're not saving babies. We're not at war. It's not that serious. We'll just move on to the next thing. And I think that just gives you more peace and mind, at least for me, because, just throw my kitchen sink at it, give it my best crack at it. After that, move on as if nothing happened, repeat the same thing. Just try to be better than the next one. Lesson number 5, you're far more capable than you think you are. I've had different instances last year of where this happened, where I didn't think, like some of the things that I think were possible, but were possible after like a breakthrough moment. So giving different examples, I didn't think it was possible to just call someone up from Facebook and then just close them for like an 8.5K PIF, because that's what happened. Because Matt would do a training one time and he would say, guys, you got to stop putting artificial barriers in front of you. You got to stop putting artificial barriers in front of you. You don't have to just DM and then just go for like a 20 back and forth conversation. Book them in for a sales call the next day, make sure they go through the homework material, and then they show up on Zoom, they have their camera, and then they sell, and then you sell them then. Just call them on Facebook after a few back and forths. They answer, you sell them on the spots. And I was like, can you do that? Don't you need to book them in for a sales call? You got to confirm and you got to watch. And he's like, dude, who cares, man? Just bang out sales. I was like, wow, just bang out sales. All right. So exactly what I did. So the same day or the next day, whenever it was, and I went into the Facebook group of the business that I was selling for, my last company. And I found this dude on Facebook. I commented on his post and I sent him a DM. I slid into his DMs. We did a few back and forths and I just called him. So I live in Dubai, so I had to turn on my VPN on because otherwise we can't make Facebook calls. But I turned on my VPN on. I called the guy on Facebook and I had my AirPods on and I was just walking around this living room. And the guy was driving. Another controversial topic, because in the high ticket space, they always say, well, if they're driving, just reschedule. But I just didn't. I just talked. He was just going around doing groceries or some shit. And I was just walking around my living room doing some like cardio. And I took him through the entire sales call. Right? I was like, hey, man, what's going on? Yeah, cool, man. So like you said, you need help with this. Like, what do you do in terms of getting better with sales now? All right, cool. Is it working? In the sales call, right? I wasn't pitching right away, but you don't have to take them through a triage and then book a sales call. That was a breakthrough moment. I just take them through the entire sales call when he picked up. Cost of inaction, future pacing goals, pitch, all those things. He had a bit of objections. I think he had like a one light objection, and then a nudge, kind of pushed him over the nudge, and then he just bought. And then I collected card details, and then I pipped him for 8.5K on the spot. And that took like 29 minutes. I was like, you can do that. I didn't think I could do that, but I did it. I thought like only Anthony or Matt could do it, but I could do it too because I just fucking did it. And that's what it is. It's that it's just having a self-belief of just going for it and making it happen, And so after that, I was like, oh, like it's like the 4-minute mile moment where all the limitations I had, it just broke. I was like, I can just fucking do it. Another example is when I started selling B2B. So at my last company, I started selling the B2B deals, and I was one of the first few people to be able to do it. And it was like a 30K package. Like the regular price point I was selling was like 3K or 8.5K parts at that point. And now I'm selling to like these CEO business owners, like A-type as people call it. They're like, get to the point. All right. Da, 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 da. They have like no smile on their face, and they think they know sales because they're like sales managers, like CEOs, but they're not. So, and I thought, can I really sell these people? I don't know. Like they're like twice my age, da, 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 da. And I became, I sold the most amount of B2B deals on the team, at least before I left. So it's not that I was like so great at sales. I don't think. It's just that I was more persistent and I just went for it. Because there's some reps where, the setters would be talking, hey, like, do you want to take this B2B lead? And then they'll say no. And then I'm like, well, give it to me then. I'm like, I don't know how to sell B2B. I've never taken proper B2B training, but I'll talk to them. And then I did. And I talked to them and I fumbled it. I fucked up. Of course I did. And then, I had some like few confrontations with like different like sales managers or like sales directors, but I sold the most B2B deals because I just went for it. And then, because it's like a multi-call process typically, because you have to send out the invoice, you got to get the decision makers on board. It's like a process. And, what I realized was some of the leads would fall off the cracks because they'll stop responding, they'll no shit to the next call, so on and so forth. So I just fucking called them. I just called them until they bought. There's one B2B lead where literally they were supposed to sign the agreement and just pay, but they just started ghosting me and then their text back super late. And I would just keep calling them. And there was one point where I literally called them, I think like 27 times in a row where they did not respond. Or maybe they sent like one text back during the time, very unresponsive, but 27 times in a row. That includes hitting their work phone, hitting their office phone, hitting their personal cell phone, hitting up their coworkers, sending emails, sending texts, finding their website. Like it was a whole process. Like I just said, like, not just like, because most closers in high ticket, most salespeople, they follow up like most people don't even follow up. But if they do follow up, they'll follow up like once or twice and they're like, oh, they're not interested. And they stop following up. Nah, man. They didn't say no. They didn't say fuck off. So I keep calling those people. People get busy or they may need a bit of a nudge. That's okay. That's our fucking job, right? So I did that. The 28th time they picked up and then they signed the agreement and then they signed that 30K deal. And so, and now I would do that multiple times. And I had like no B2B sales experience prior to that point. And I had the least sales experience on that team, but I sold them the most B2B deals on the team at the time before I left because I didn't think it were possible. But I was like, oh, like I'm far more capable than I think I am. I just got to go for it. There was also another incident where I stayed up until 4 a.m. to close a deal just to prove a point, not to other people, but to myself. So there's one time where I had about like 8 sales calls booked. I think 5 or 6 showed up, and then I just went blank in all those calls. I didn't close a single deal during the call, and during my no-show time, I was calling up leads. I still couldn't close a deal. And because of my time zone, I was in Dubai. I'm still in Dubai. But because of my time zone, it was around like 1 a.m. or like 2 a.m. It's kind of late at that point. And that's usually when I go to bed after my sales calls. But I was like, you know what? I'm not going to go to bed tonight until I close a deal. And so that's exactly what I did. So what I did was I went into the CRM. I just started calling people. I called the no-show list, the no-sell list, people who didn't buy, and also called clients to try to upsell them. And now just doing that, but like, people weren't picking up, or like I try to sell them, I'd get objections, I couldn't overcome it. And then or like, this person wants to do it, but they didn't have the money. So I was like, like nothing's working. And my eyes were like drying and I'm getting tired. I want to go to sleep. I'm getting tired just talking all day. I feel defeated. I was like, fuck, man. And then the sales channel, I see other reps just banging out sales. I was like, man, maybe I should just go to bed. Maybe I should just try again tomorrow. I was like, no, I can do it. And I kept going. It's like 3 a.m. nothing, 3:30 a.m. nothing. And then eventually someone picked up, and it was a past client. And then I talked to the guy, and then I was trying to upsell him, and I took him through a sales call, and then I pitched him, and then he had some objections. He's like, yeah, this sounds good. I think I'll start like maybe like a month or two after. But I said in there, because I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna get this deal. I'm gonna get this deal, and you're gonna do it. And that's exactly what I did. I handled that objection, and eventually I turned it into like, I think like 8K or 16K sale. And by the time I put through the sales form, it was like 3:42 a.m. or like 4 a.m. my time. Put through the sales form, fill out the end of day report, and then I posted in the Slack channel. It's 4:02 a.m. my time here right now. I told myself I wouldn't go to bed before I close a deal, and I just did. And then I passed the fuck out. And that was it wasn't about the commissions, but it was a very proud moment for me. I think it was one of the proudest moments in my sales career, because I said I was going to do it and I actually did it. And I've had multiple moments like that, but it was a really challenge to myself, because we'll have one of those days where it feels like nothing's going our fucking way. We'll have those days in sales. And even on that day, I just created opportunity out of thin air, instead of just, all the calls, they no show, they're not buying. But you know what? Let me make something happen out of thin air. And that's exactly what I did. And there's part of something called outbound closing. I'm sure I'll talk about on this channel sometime later. But outbound closing is not just in relying on the inbound calls, inbound closing, but creating opportunities out of thin air like that. Oftentimes, it doesn't have to take until 4 a.m. This is a odd case, because you can still close deals during your no-show. But because I had the ability, because I had the skills and the processes for it, I was able to make that happen. Lesson number 6 is expand your time horizon. Oftentimes, I don't know about you, but high achievers, we get quite impatient with the lack of results or progress, where other people would say, hey, that's pretty good, because we don't really care about what other people think. We care about, like, I just feel like it's not good enough. So, people keep telling me, hey, you're good at sales. You're good at sales. You're like, hey, you're the progress you made with what you've done at 7th level, the commissions you made, that's incredible in the amount of time you did. But still, I was like, yeah, but I'm not where I want to be yet. And when will the conversation with myself be over? I don't think it'll ever be over. I think it'll just keep going. So, because Hormozi talks about that one thing, right? Like successful traits of success, common traits of successful people, which is number 1, they think they're better than anybody else. They have a superiority complex. And number 2, they have an inferiority complex, which is they feel like they're never good enough. And third one is the impulse control. But the second one really hits, because the first one, the second one, I keep going back and forth. Sometimes I'm like, man, like, dude, I'm fucking good. And the second time is like, man, I'm still not where I want to be yet. And I think that's a good thing, because it keeps you hungry. Because the moment you think you know it all, the moment you think you've arrived, and that's where progression stops. And the moment that growth and progression stops is pretty much when we die, how I see it. And because Matt would always say, hey, time takes time. Because I'll see Matt and be like, yeah, but you're so witty. You can handle objections like left, right, and center, like Neo in the Matrix. And Matt's like, well, mates, I've been in sales for 12 years. I was like, yeah, I guess that's how it is. Jeremy's been in sales for like 20 something years. Matt's been in sales for 12 years. Marco was like 5-10 years. Same thing with most sales trainers. They've been in the game for a long time. And, last year was my first full year in sales. I've been in sales for like 2 years now, I guess. And it's just that time takes time, which is the most frustrating thing that I feel like, high achievers can hear, because we're like, yeah, it's kind of true, but we want to get there sooner. So the conclusion I came to is what Gary Vee talks about: micro speed, macro patience. What does that mean? Micro speed, meaning that in your day-to-day, there's another way of putting it, Hormozi says, is be impatient with the inputs, be patient with your outputs. So inputs, meaning that call the leads right away. Don't procrastinate. Call the leads, right? When you're doing the sales training outside of your selling hours, yeah, be impatient. Work on your scripting. Work on the questions. Work on the objection line. Work on the tonality. Yes.
During your selling hours, you call leads. Boom, boom, boom. Right away. Be impatient. Yes. Macro, though, on the broad scale, understand that, yes, it's probably going to take a long time to get better sales because it fucking does. It doesn't have to be, but oftentimes it does because, you're not going to just make your tonality sound so fucking beautiful overnight. You're not going to be a master objection handling ninja overnight. It takes time. It's more about just memorizing the thing because you got to be the person. To be the person to actually challenge people and like be an actual leader. That doesn't happen overnight. It's a personal development thing. I hate to put it that way, but it's a personal development thing, right? Because me being able to challenge prospects, it didn't just come from sales. It came from me, even before getting into sales, me just cold approaching in the streets, cold approaching girls and getting rejected time after time because I wanted to get better at talking to girls. It's still a process. I'm still learning that, right? And so that's me like just going on the streets of Korea, talking to 50 girls a day, getting rejected all day, every day. And it forces you to develop thicker skin. And it forces you to just kind of like laugh it off. And like, I didn't really learn that from sales per se. Yeah, I learned some of it from sales, but probably 80% from just cold approaching random girls and like just talking to random strangers on the street and getting rejected all day. And, and getting told fuck off or like, getting those kind of reactions. And then you just learn to not take things personally. And then it becomes a lot easier for you to challenge people because you don't take things too seriously, So that's a process thing. It's because whenever you see someone who's getting like overnight success in something, like overnight success in sales, you really got to see what's going on behind the scenes, behind the curtains, because you don't know that, right? Because before I got into sales, I was doing that. I was reading Way of the Wolf by Jordan Belfort and Grant Cardone books, like sales books. Maybe not the best tactical books, right? Techniques wise, but still like it helped me understand like getting rejection and the process and things like that. But I read those even before I got into sales, not knowing that I would get into sales one day because I just wanted to get at talking to people. I read How to Win Friends and Influence People. I read How to Never Eat Alone, those kind of books, not knowing that I'd get into sales one day. And I also studied copywriting. Copywriting and sales are quite similar in terms of buyer psychology. I feel like copywriters understand buyer psychology a lot more than salespeople. Very smart people. So I did that before I got into sales. So that's why things, I guess, like started clicking faster. It never clicks right now because it's an ongoing process, but that's what it kind of looks like. So you don't know the behind the scenes, right? And same thing with the people that you see online. Like you don't know what they did before sales or whatever. You don't know that. So yes, short term, micro wise, just ideation to action, shorten it, impatient with that. But broad scale, just take a deep breath and just take it day by day. Lesson number 7 is your problems may not be your fault, but it is still your responsibility. This is a kind of a tough one because we're all humans and we all like to blame things, going back to the previous points. And there's different incidents that happened in life, whether for myself and my friends, that kind of drills the point home. Well, what I started realizing in sales is on sales calls, I'll start getting people that were just giving me surface level answers and they'll just shut down. And at the end, what happens? They give me think about objection. And then I'm wondering because I'm like, man, I know the script down pat at this point. I understand why I'm asking it. I know 5 different ways of asking the same question in different ways. Why am I keep getting the surface level answers? And then it got to a point where people straight up tell me, hey, Brian, you look disinterested. Like, are you even interested? I would get that. First time I was like, what are you talking about? I'm like, my ego kicking in, right? Then I'd get it again, and then I get it like several times, and I was like, And I was talking to Matt. And I was like, hey, man, I keep getting people to say that I look disinterested. Do I look disinterested? He's like, oh, yeah, you look dead inside. And I was like, oh, I'm not disinterested. And he's like, oh, let's do a role play. And it's like, yeah, you just look disinterested. I was like, oh, so it's pretty good feedback. And at that point, I was like, why is this happening? Why do I look disinterested? And Matt's like, well, do you want to know what I think? And it's not going to be politically correct. And Matt said, well, okay, so you're from Korea. Do people in Korea typically smile? Or are they really expressive? I was like, no. Like I've seen my dad smile maybe twice in my entire life, right? It's not because he's depressed. It's just that we just are not expressive, especially Korean men. So traditionally speaking, Korea, they say that as a man, if you talk too much or if you talk a lot, if you talk pretty much, basically you're light as a feather. It's a rough translation, which means that you cannot be taken seriously. You're not a serious person. And because as a man, you just don't do that, I guess. And in Korea, Asian culture in general, we don't really do the whole like, how's your day going? Hey, good morning. How you doing? We don't do that stuff like Americans do, for example, or Western culture. That's like, hey, how are you? That formal smile and that expressiveness with strangers, we just don't do that. And because of that, my face is kind of like this, especially because I was coming out of the military for 2 years. Where in the military, I was not smiling, to say the least. And, but on sales calls, it's different because I'm not talking to Koreans, I'm talking to Americans, where their natural social cues are to smile with strangers. Hey, how are you? They're doing the small talk shit. And, I was bringing that to the sales call. So I was like, oh, I didn't even know I was doing it. But Matt was the only one that pointed it out. I was like, I mean, it's kind of weird. I was thinking like for a split second, I was thinking, man, if I was American, things would be so much easier. If I was white American, because like I would be smiling, they'd be maybe opening up more. And then I was like, yeah, but who fucking cares? Like, it's not gonna change. I was fucking born Korean. I was born and raised. I can't go back and fix the past. I'm not Doctor Strange. So what am I gonna do? I can just keep bitching about the problem, or I can fix it. And so that's what I did. And so I started working with a communications coach. He's actually a dating coach, but I learned how to like smile more, right? I learned how to modulate my voice more because I was like very like monotone. I was kind of like this the whole time. But I started to modulate my voice more, having more expressions in my face, my body language, things like that. That helped. And also putting different mitigators, like just joking or self-deprecating. Hey, just so you know, I have a KBF, Korean bitch face. So I'm not pissed at you. It's just all Asians are like that. So I'll do shit like that. And so what they would do is it would crack people up and they would disarm. And I was able to get them to open up more and, get more urgency and all that kind of cool stuff. So, but they came from me just owning up to saying, hey, it's not my fault, but it's still a problem. So how can we fix it? So you see how like the lessons kind of go on top of each other, which is pretty cool. I wasn't trying to design it that way, but okay, how can I? Another incident too is my time zone situation, because I'm not American. I'm not an American citizen, so I can't really like stay in America for that long. And with my visa situation, I couldn't even get a visa to go to the US. Could have bitched and moaned about it because I sell to US time zone, right? US leads. So when I'm in Korea, I'm waking up at like 3 a.m. because that's their afternoon time. And I don't even like going to America. I'm usually in Korea or Europe. I like being in Europe sometimes. So those time zones are kind of shit because when I'm in Korea, I'm waking up, I'm taking calls from like 3 a.m. to like 1 p.m., right? 12 p.m. or 1 p.m. When I'm in Europe, I'm taking calls from like 4 p.m. to midnight or 1 a.m. And so because of that, I couldn't have a regular social life for quite a while because in Korea, I was going to bed at like 6 p.m. or like 7 p.m. so I could wake up early. So I don't really go out for dinner. And during the afternoon, I'm just kind of tired because I'm waking up so early. I feel jet lagged. And in Europe, I'm taking calls from like 4 p.m. to 1 a.m. So I can't go out for dinner again because I'm taking calls. And so because of that, I was like, man, like, and also thinking, man, if I was living in America, it was so much easier confirming calls and I could take more calls, I could follow up more, and then I could probably make more sales. And then I was kind of feeling sorry for myself for like 1 second. Then I was like, yeah, but what are we going to do about it? We just make it work. And so despite my times, I just find different creative ways to make it work, like being able to like schedule texts ahead of time to confirm sales calls and being able to identify different things to maximize the show up rate within the limited time, the window of time that I do take sales calls. So I got pretty good at that. I was able to get my slot utilization rate to about 80 to 90%. Slot utilization rate, meaning that let's say you have 40 hours a week available for sales calls and you just like have as many people show up to that as much as possible. Right. And so I was just being creative because of those kind of situations. So you just own up to your thing and then you just make it work. So that was more the life and sales, and I was a bit broad. But if you want to see like actual tactics, how do you handle objections? How do you prevent objections? How do you add more urgency? How do you get better with your tonality? How do you turn 1 sale into 2 sales into 3 sales with upsells? All the kind of stuff, get my scripts, templates, and SOPs. Go to the first link in the description box below. You'll get a demo of Real Sales System, which is a sales training community. So you'll be able to do coaching calls with me in the group setting and get feedback from me. You can ask me questions in the community and get my SOPs and templates and all that kind of stuff that I use to get to $228,000 a year in my first full year in sales. So I'll see you there.